The first 3 episodes are out, and after a bit of time, a few days to digest the episodes, and then rewatching them, I have to say that I love what they're doing and the direction of the show so far. I do not, in any way feel that it's been too slow or boring, especially after rewatching it. What I'm really digging is the complexity of each character and the relationships between the characters. Now, I fully expected that I probably would have somewhat regurgitated some of the same things I've seen on other reviewers about the first 2 episodes, being a little slow and not necessary, and that maybe it could have condensed into one longer episode, but honestly, I completely disagree with that. When I was rewatching, I was just really trying to look for places where I could say that, oh, this wasn't necessary, and then I could cut this down. But after rewatching and finishing the 3rd episode, I can see just about every scene had a purpose, or it pushed the story in some way. First, this Disney show starts off in a brothel? Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting that. Now, the first 5 minutes, I was hooked. If there's one thing that I despise in TV shows or movies, is when characters are conveniently dumb to serve a plot. And to see Cassian kill that first corpo by accident, and really he's just defending himself from a shakedown by these 2 rent-a-cops who like to abuse their powers a bit, but then knowing that he had no choice, he had to kill that second one, made me really kind of fall in love with the writing of this show right off the bat. Leaving that second guard alive would have obviously shown some mercy and would have been a good guy move, which is what clear-cut good guys do, but would have also been a really dumb decision on Cassian's part. He's keeping himself alive, and if it takes being brutal, he has no problem doing that. Like, right off the bat, it shows that he's kind of an unsavory dude. This show feels completely new and different, and it's a nice break from, the Jedi and the Sith and the Mandalorians and these powerful Force users. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, I love all of that. It's Star Wars, but this show, it's a different side. It's real people. It's non-Force users and how they have to deal with the tyranny of the Empire or how they have to fight it. Deputy Inspector Cyril Karn is another character that I find pretty interesting. He's what I would call like a true believer. He wants to represent the corporate authority and do what he feels is right by going after the person who murdered his fellow officers. He meets this Sergeant Kostek who really takes charge and takes that leadership role, while Cyril Karn he kind of struggles with what to actually do. He wants to do something. He's driven by what he feels is morally right, and you can see his disappointment in the other corpos and what he seems like is a real lack of interest in doing their jobs. He seems almost out of place when he's trying to take that leadership role, maybe even a little bit of insecurity. He gives one of the most unmotivating motivational speeches in the history of the galaxy. He kind of sounds like me trying to give a presentation in front of my class in high school. Even the other officers have that same look my classmates had after I went back to my desk. But I think because of the events in episode 3 and what he sees are really just these terrorists, I think it may push him into being more extreme towards these rebels in the future. He sees what it will probably actually take to defeat these rebels. Now, I feel that this is character building at its finest. All the characters seem to have an extra layer, and the first 2 episodes show that pretty beautifully. Cassian's relationship with Bix seems complex. It's business, but it's also, you can tell there's some history there and a bit personal. But then Bix is also connected to this rebellion and Luthen. Now, we don't know at this point on how closely connected she is. Like I mentioned with Cyril, there's definitely something there with him that will probably change drastically in the future. It appears that he's, insecure, maybe naive, and overzealous. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but we don't know exactly what is going on with him, and I think that's a good thing. Then we get the payoff of the 3rd episode, and that tension is only there because of the buildup with the first 2 episodes and how it was set up. Now, another point about this show, it's storytelling. It's not just giving you all the answers up front. We learn little pieces of information, and they do a great job of showing us, not telling us, that these characters and their relationships are important. I know a lot of people want all those answers up front. all their questions answered right away. But the setup and payoff requires the story to build tension and have the audience really question the people or some of the events or some of the motives of the characters along the way, and then revealing the answers later. Nothing feels forced or rushed in this show. You know, in Kenobi, they tried to force these characters into the story in a way that really felt unnatural. It was a bit lazy and it just didn't work, and it didn't help you feel for these characters. Andor doesn't use action to cover up bad storytelling storytelling or lazy plots, or bringing in some major legacy characters like Vader or Obi-Wan or Ahsoka for fan service that really doesn't serve the story. You know, I love those characters, of course, as much as anyone, and those three are some of my favorites, but this series is trying to stand on its own, and so far through the first 3 episodes, it's doing a great job. You know, I can feel the tension in the first episode, and then it builds in that second episode before, of course, coming to a head in the third. It reminds me of what Cassian says to Jyn Erso in Rogue One when they're on Jeddah. Jyn asks him why he's feeling so tense all of a sudden, and he replies, "Because this town is about to blow." And I felt that with this show as well. You know, I'm excited to see what happens in the next episode. They started small with Andor, his struggles, and his fight, and now it's going to start to open up into a much larger and bigger world. We're going to see Mon Mothma and the start of the Rebel Alliance. We're going to see Saw Gerrera. We're going to see Saw Gerrera and his group of partisans. We're going to see Bail Organa and some of these political overtones with the Senate, Coruscant, and a lot of the other side, and probably more layers to Luthen and who he really is. I still think with my theory that he might be a Fulcrum agent. We also have a few Easter eggs. The same model ship as Ghost is seen here. This is Hera Syndulla's ship in Rebels. We also see Marva misidentify some CIS officers that crashed the ship on Kenari. Now, they clearly show that the CIS symbol, but they call him a Rebel officer and a Rebel ship. So it seems intentional. There's no way that can be a mistake, I would think, which is pretty interesting. You know, they have this weird green gas that's coming out of the crash ship. You know, the skin was green on the officers, and we have some questions that will, I think, get answered later on, or this adds another layer to the story. These guys could be a false flag operation where some rebel agents are dressed up as CIS agents and steal a ship, and something going on there that's a little bit more nefarious. And we also have a reference to an Imperial mining disaster on Kenari. But was it actually an Imperial disaster back then? When did this actually happen? Because the flashbacks look like it's around the time of the Clone Wars. So what does that all have to do with this crashed ship? And I love that we have a little bit of mystery on our hands when it comes to this situation, and I'm thinking that it's going to be revealed a little bit at a time as the story progresses. And another Easter egg, we also see these blue ramen noodle looking things, and I think that's the Gormana's glow blue noodles from the Galaxy Edge cookbook. We also see some Corellian hounds, a toy bantha in Cassian's room, and okay, I just want to mention a little bit of a theory for me, and it's kind of a big stretch, it's a big stretch, so let's put on our tinfoil hats for this one. Cyril Karn. Okay, Kyle Katarn, Cyril Karn, Kyle Katarn. Look, Kyle Katarn is a Legends character that was a former Imperial officer who defected. He was force sensitive and eventually joined the Jedi under Luke Skywalker. Now, the names are just, they sound so close. Cyril Karn, Kyle Katarn. Also, Andor uses the Briar pistol that Kyle Katarn uses in Dark Empire. The planet Fest is a planet that Kyle Katarn visits in Dark Empire as well. And I mean, hell, even the actor's name is Kyle that plays Cyril Katarn. So I know it's probably a huge stretch and maybe just something like a nod to Kyle Katarn, but you never know. I thought I'd just at least throw it out there. Anyway, that's my first thoughts on this amazing show so far. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more Andor and Star Wars content in general. Click here to see one of my favorite characters, Ahsoka, and her influence on the spy network Fulcrum, which I'm thinking Luthen is. Eventually leads to, of course, Cassian Andor, who is actually an agent of Fulcrum we learn later on, and may the Force be with you.